Jonny Holland was living his dream, a professional rugby player with his local province Munster. He was the leader of the orchestra, he was the fly half. His world was turned upside down a little over a year ago when he was forced to retire from the game due to a recurring hamstring injury, aged just 25. This injury included a rehab stint of 13 months in which he battled through and still made it back to play at the top level. This just goes to show the guy's resilience. Apart from the obvious disappointment, Jonny has no regrets, knowing that he left no stone unturned in his efforts. We sit down with him to chat all things Jonny. What struck such a chord with us is his attitude. Here's a guy who's had his dreams shattered and his thoughts are, okay, this happened, we carry on to the next chapter. A refreshingly honest conversation in which Jonny answers all your questions and all of ours. So please, sit back, relax and enjoy the 19th episode of the Frankly Nuts podcast.
So guys, welcome back to the Frankly Nuts podcast, episode number 19.
Beautiful. So today we're joined by Jonny Holland. Jonny, what's the crack?
No crack now.
That's brilliant. So I suppose what we'll do first, for people who don't know of you, is we'll just give a quick kind of backstory.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, I suppose, like, you were a professional rugby player with Munster Rugby Club, and you, at the age of 25, I suppose, had to retire cruelly due to an injury, and basically that's why we're here today, like, to discuss your story and all that, like, and it's an interesting one, like, so we're sure it'll make for an interesting podcast.
Absolutely, and we asked the viewers for questions and you sent them in your dribs and jabs. We have plenty of them here, 2 full pages.
That's why we've notes. No, we wouldn't always have notes, like.
So we're going to start it a bit differently this week because of all the questions we got sent in, it's stuff that we would have covered ourselves.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with the viewer questions, get through these, and then me and Joe have questions ourselves, Saskia.
Yeah.
So do you want to kick it off or do you want me to?
Work away.
Perfect. So the first question we were sent in, Jonny, was about your life after rugby. So how did you transition from a professional athlete to an everyday person, and how you filled the gaps and how you found it really?
Transition probably in a very hard way. Like it's a tough one because professional rugby, we were discussing it beforehand, but like you're told what to do all the time, and obviously there's parts of it where you're not told what to do, but you know what's expected of you, and then there's another parts that maybe it's not expected of you and you go the extra bit and you do it on your own, and then you come out of the game. And the way I came out of the game anyway was one day I was playing and one day I wasn't. You know, there wasn't the end of a season or there wasn't anything to prepare for. It just kind of started happening and snowballed, and the next day I just didn't turn up, kind of thing. Like I went home after one session and the next day I didn't have to turn up, maybe turn up the next week, and then waiting for a report back from a surgeon, and then I didn't have to contractually turn up anymore. So it was kind of like from 100 to 0, which is not the right way to do things, but you prefer it to be going the other way around. But so like it was very difficult, and I was lucky I started studying again, so I had something to put my kind of focus into, because I'm the kind of guy that if I'm staying still I'm freaking out and losing my mind. Like you don't feel like you're achieving anything, and that's probably one of the hardest things. You don't feel like you're achieving anything from day to day, whereas you go into the gym in the morning, you achieve something. You might have stuck 2.5 kilos extra on your bench, or you might have, whatever it is, like you might have got an extra bit on your squat, and you kind of go away thinking like I got something out of that, and then you get onto the pitch session and you've got your own little goals throughout the day. Like in smallest things you can say you achieved something and it's all going towards a bigger goal. Then you go home, and I was kind of like, I don't actually have to get up if I don't want to. Yeah. I did, because I'm not the kind of person that would
just lay around, like,
even when I'm supposed to, I can't do it, you know. So it was difficult that way. But in terms of dealing with it, I suppose I just tried to find a kind of a routine, because people are different. I'm kind of a routine type of person. I like structure. Other people hate it, and they'd love to get out of training and just chill out and not have to plan their day, whereas I nearly went and tried to plan a day for myself, even if I had nothing to do, just writing things down. I'll do this at certain times, like, and that's probably how I dealt with it. I went to the gym a lot.
Just kept your mind busy.
Not that you can tell that I ever go to a gym, but it's I had to, because if I wasn't doing something like that, I start thinking too much, and I'm thinking too much, then I start freaking out. Not in a really bad way, but I just, it just too much free time, and I'll just start wondering what I'm doing and why aren't I achieving something. I'm wanting more out of people, and why aren't they answering me back? And Joey would say, because you just texted 5 minutes ago, and I'm like, but if someone texts me, I just text back straight away. and those kind of things would just get on your nerves then after a while. Like, so stay busy. That was one of the main things.
Cool. And like, there was someone sent in, how do you find life after rugby and kind of being known as Jonny the rugby player? I suppose they're kind of asking on your kind of identity side of things, I suppose, with your everyday conversations with people and things like that. Like,
and that's something that I kind of always speak about, in that, you know, it's very easy to say, oh, I play rugby, and they kind of, I never say, hi, I'm a professional rugby player, but you know, the conversations has to go down that path, and you eventually, well, I play with Munster and blah blah blah, they all kind of find the story out. But there's nearly a kind of a confidence issue when you come out of the game. I think for me anyway, it was, people say like, what are you doing? And I probably said it up until a couple of months ago, I don't know, not much, not a whole lot really, like, and people like, you are doing something, you're doing this and you're doing that, and I'm like, yeah, but what's that, like, you know, and it's probably not enough for you for a while. So I kept, like, you know, it's nearly a confidence issue. I am doing this, like, as opposed to, well, I'm looking to do something, you know, and that's probably one of the hardest parts. And even like, I still probably be like, oh, I'm Jonny, I played rugby. You can't introduce yourself like that. Like, you have to be able to find something else to kind of describe yourself, and that's probably the path I'm on, is finding my description in a way. But the confidence thing, I think, is something that you have to get over and start kind of putting yourself out there a small bit more. Funny, like, you're in a profession where you're putting yourself out there every day, and you're kind of in front of people all the time.
Yeah,
but
cameras.
But it's in a different kind of a different situation. You know, you don't deal with anything professionally, I call it, or career wise. You know, because you're stuck into rugby, and you don't ever think like, oh, I have to go get a part-time job or a bit of like an internship. You know, Robin Copeland is kind of doing something at the moment with a company, and when I saw that, I was kind of like, I respected it a lot, because fellas don't do it. And I remember James Downey saying to me, I think when he came out of the game, I wasn't sure, or was he planning on maybe coming out of the game, and he said, I went for a job interview with a guy, and he asked me what was I doing for the last 10 years, and I said, I was playing rugby. And the guy said, so what, like, what were you doing in your spare time? You don't play rugby 24 hours, like. And Jimmy was kind of just taken aback by it, kind of going, this isn't enough, you know, and that kind of hit home with me a small bit at the time. But so I went back studying. I was lucky I was able to focus straight back into that. But, you know, I don't think you're ever doing enough. But again, like, it's very hard. You're kind of focusing on a game at the weekend. You might be kicking in your spare time. You might be doing whatever you're doing. Most of the lads will go for a coffee, like, or go for lunch. But you know, you're kind of, your mind is never off it when you're away from it. It's not that kind of profession where you go home and the books are closed, or, you know, you're away from your desk, the laptop's put away. Like, you're always thinking about what you can be doing, even your food, or what you do that night. It might be because, you know, I have something in the morning, so I'm not going to go to the cinema and go late, or you know, whatever.
Every decision you make, I suppose, is kind of an impact on.
For me, it was anyway. Other lads are better at kind of compartmentalising that. I suppose they can.
Yeah,
you know, absolutely. Fellas can switch off, but I kind of get anxious then, and I kind of think, you know, what I'm supposed to be doing, like, so I'm going to make myself out sound like a bit mental, like, but that is the way I am, like, in kind of more routine, like, it's just two different kind of personalities through it.
And the next one then we got was, do you believe the hamstring injury could have been, like, avoided, and would it have happened if you had still been playing GA instead of the rugby?
It wouldn't have happened, probably not in that way.
It's such a tough question to ask. It's like, how are you to know? I know, but like,
no, it wouldn't have, because I mean, the way I did it, I was bent over in a ruck and a fella pinned me in half. Like, it wouldn't happen in a different game. But whether I should have been in there doing it, too competitive going for a ball or something. But I remember my technique wasn't the greatest. I don't go in for poaches. I don't know why you did it. The ball was kind of open in kind of open field. No one really rucking it, so I just saw it and went for it. But I just remember I was kind of overreaching a small bit. I don't know if that had anything to do with my injury, but obviously you don't get those situations in GA. Like, other fellas, I might still have had a hamstring injury, who knows, but it wouldn't have been because that, like, I don't have particularly bad hamstrings, like, and that's something I always try and get across to people. I was put in a compromising position where my hamstring had to give for me to get out of the situation, like, you know. So it wouldn't have happened if I played soccer, or it wouldn't happen if I played tennis. Maybe something else would have happened, though, you know, you never to know.
Yeah, exactly. And do you get that a lot, actually, that people think you had bad hamstrings? Is that something you get a lot?
Yeah, like, people would kind of say
assume
to me,
because you retired because of that.
No, I've had the odd ping in my hamstring, like anyone does when they go training, like, you know, and the moment you train, you're going to get something in your hamstring if you're fatiguing, and if you've done too much that week or whatever it is, like. But people do kind of just assume you're always tearing your hamstring. Now, I did get a little bit in a tag rugby game during the summer, and I was like, geez, I thought I wasn't one of these fellas. I just came out of nowhere, like, sniper, man down. But I was, I wasn't, like, I can remember any kind of hamstring injuries I've had. Like, I wasn't always on and off, you know.
So the next, there's two questions here sent in by a buddy of mine. He's involved in professional cycling over in France, and he just sees it from the professional aspect in that sport. Do you think there is enough being done for professional sport athletes to have a career outside of sport once they finish?
I suppose they are very conscious of it in rugby anyway. It's in Irish rugby, you always hear fellas when they're going away to a different league, and particularly France or whatever it is, that you don't get the same kind of protection and you don't get the same treatment that you get when you're in Ireland, and that's probably very true. IRUPA, I think they're called the Rugby Players Association, or Rugby Players Ireland, something like that. It was IRUPA, but they're very conscious of that. But I think trying to get the engagement back from the players is another thing. They can put on all the courses they want, or they can put on networking events, but I don't think you really engage with that until you're a certain age.
Yeah.
And there's
maybe towards the end and you're looking at that part of your life.
Yeah,
and stuff
and I think you kind of have to mature through that as well, And I kind of said it recently that for me, when I was at my stage in my career, I don't think I could have thought about anything else outside of rugby at the time. I was still trying to get to being an everyday rugby player, whatever that is, but kind of thinking outside it is tough. But there's a lot going on from IRUPA, or rugby players, as I keep calling it that. But there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people talking to you afterwards, and Munster were quite good at keeping in contact. But it's kind of the tangible thing that you get from coming out of the game. I think that, I don't know, there's a gap to be bridged there. In terms of everyone says they're going to help you and things but it's actually a lot different for the person being outside of the game. You want something tangible that you can hold on to, or that you can go to, or whatever it is, but everyone offers you advice. I'm here if you need me, I have a number of person here if you need me, and that's great. And if you're someone that's going to reach out and needs someone to reach out to, that's brilliant. And those kind of things are there's the start of a conversation. But I was probably someone that wanted to keep it, I just deal with it and get on with it myself. Or I barely even spoke to family and my girlfriend and my friends at times. When I was probably having a tougher time, I would have just said, get on with it, and deal with it, and probably a bit of a strong mindset, whether that's good or bad. But other people would take that kind of a hand and go and talk to somebody. Maybe that would kind of go into something else. But coming out of the game is a lot tougher than people probably think. Especially when you're young and you're kind of in between. You're not at the end of the game, or it's probably easier to help someone, and there's a lot of connections made, and you can kind of send them down that path. But when you're at my level coming out of it, I think it's I just felt like I could have done with something a lot more tangible. If you get what I mean.
Your whole world is being turned upside down, really. To be fair, So the second question that the same fella sent in was to do with pros again, and do you feel that there's too much done for pros off the pitch throughout their career, that they're kind of mollycoddled? Am I saying that right? Yeah, mollycoddled. And do you think it affects them then in life afterwards?
None of us can talk to me. My brother would have mocked me a lot about it at one stage, just saying, go on into the herd of sheep, and follow everyone around and be told where to go. And he wasn't wrong, because he probably just picked it up from me, just talking about what we do from day to day. And I kind of tell people this one as well. No one will probably be proud of it, but we used to go into training at some stages, and we it was the first year, or one of the first years, we had a kind of dietitian on site. Before that, it was a kind of a consultant coming over and back, and because they were on site, they were probably able to take in some interns, and we had a couple of interns at the time over in Tycho. And I remember coming in the morning, and there was a big mat with your number on it, and they knew what shakes you wanted, or what parts and the supplements you wanted in your shake. So that was all put together for you, and that's fair enough. That's a nice bit of treatment. But then you fill the shake with water, drank it, and put it back, and someone else washed it for you. And that's way too far. We got a new nutritionist, a dietitian in after that. And it was the first thing she stopped. She was like, this isn't happening anymore. She probably felt like she was mothering us, and she didn't want to do it. But at the same time, I booked flights with Chloe, and she'd book flights, because I'd be like, I'd be afraid to press the button to go next, because I know your flights are booked for you. You just turn up with your gear bag and your boots and whatever you need, and you just look after yourself and just get there. Bring your passport, and even at that fellas forget them. There is a bit of that in there. Lads might disagree when they're in there, being of course you're going to be looked after, but when you come out of it, you do feel that a small bit you have been looked after very well. So especially I said, in the Irish clubs in Munster anyway, you are looked after quite well. So you have to get past that part, is it?
Jeez, that's mad.
Just get the insight on it,
But even when there's no food for after training, that's a massive part. And I'm obviously well into my food, but if the food wasn't there after training, everyone's kicking up a fuss. Where's the food? Or if you're told you have to bring your own food for a session, it's a joke. We have to bring our own food.
And you probably don't even know what to cook then.
Some fellas do struggle with cooking. I was kind of into it because I was into my food, and I'm not a class chef or anything. But I can do what I need, and I cook. probably bland enough taste, so I can just do what I need to do. But some fellas just don't know how to cook, and they buy it out all the time. Obviously, fellas get a bit of money when they're at a different level, and they buy their food, like, and they can cook, but maybe they just don't decide to. Yeah.
That's interesting. Like at an amateur level, like hurling and GA and stuff, like if you get your food after one training, the odd time, like it's Christmas come early, like for the whole stuff, like, you know, or like you might get it with a college team or something like that, like, and it's just like brilliant, like.
But if you're in work and you're demanding, are we getting fed after a meeting? Like it doesn't happen all the time at all. You know, maybe good companies it's a bit of a perk, but you don't demand it every day. You're in a meeting, like, you know, that's kind of the way you are. And I suppose it's because it is part of the game. Like it's a different situation that you have to recover, because if you don't recover from the session, you're not going to be any good in the next one. And it's in Munster's best interest to feed you, but it's all it can be done yourself. Like, you know.
You can't go home and make it. Like. So the next one we were sent in then was when you were coming back from the injury the first time. How did you mentally prepare to do it?
So I went through a lot with that injury, but I kind of people ask me about the mental side of the game as well, and that's probably one of the hardest things you go through. Like I was told it was a 6-month injury, and being out for 13 months, I think it was, before I got back to some sort of a game, which was actually insane, like, isn't it? With a lot of young fellas at the time. I was delighted to be rolling around. I actually remember Musgrave Park was in terrible condition. Bowser was telling me the week after he played with Dolphin, like, and the water was just up over his boots, you know, and that's the same conditions we played in that week, and I was delighted to be doing it. But it was kind of. So it was a 6-month injury. It could turn into 13, and then, like, how do you deal with that part? I wanted to make it 5. It turned into 13, and you think, what am I doing wrong? When I don't think I could have done anything about it. To be honest, I thought I did a lot in my rehab, and all the people directly around me did a lot in my rehab. Anyone involved at Munster, they were all over it. Like, but it was just one of those injuries. I don't think you could foresee what was going to come with it. So I practiced a lot of different things. I got really in. I probably went very internal with it anyway, because I just was looking for answers. I was trying to track everything, because if something changed and I knew what I was after doing, then you know the answer to that part at least, you know. So I started tracking everything in terms of what I was lifting in the gym, what I was going to do for the day, what food I was having. Probably overtracked it, but I needed to let, like, leave my mind at rest that I did everything I could, and that I wasn't going to be to blame for my hamstring not coming back to the way it should be, you know. So I got big into kind of gratitude, and I don't want to sound like a weirdo again. Like, I got big into gratitude because Chloe bought me a book called The Secret, and I read it, and it kind of just hit a nerve with me, because I think when you get injured, you can start blaming everyone around you, and you can start getting very negative, and that's probably the first reaction that everyone has. And it was just good timing. It was a month before Christmas, and she got it for me for Christmas. Her mum was into it at some stage anyway, and that kind of just, I think if I didn't get that book at that time, I don't think I would have had as good a rehab as I did. And she probably didn't even know that was going to be the reaction that it would have with me. But it just made me kind of find a different level mentally, and everything I did from there on, I think, was that spurred it, you know. So I set a lot of goals, even down to enjoy the session tomorrow was always a goal, because you don't always enjoy sessions. And especially professionally, it's your job. You get in and get it done, don't make mistakes. Try and make yourself better, but you can't do that every day. So try and enjoy it while I was going was one of my main ones. But setting daily goals was huge for me. I literally wrote them down every day. Like, if I had a bad session the day before, I would have written down, don't drop any balls tomorrow, or no drop balls. I know, don't drop any balls, you can't quantify that. Like, but 0 drop balls would have been something that I tried to go through, or I would have written down how many kicks I wanted to kick. Loads of little things. They mightn't even mean to anything to anybody when they're listening to it, but for me at the time, I was just really into it. But, you know, with the injury that I had as well, and tendinopathy in my hamstring and stuff like that, it was nearly, the more you think about it, it's always going to be there, because it's always in the back of your mind. It's always just ringing underneath you when you're sitting there. And maybe I got a bit into it, but I don't have any regrets with it, because I wrote everything down. I can nearly tell you the story from the book at home, like, you know, and just, oh geez, I did that and that day, and I don't even remember it now. But like, if I had to look back, it would give you a peace of mind, like.
And even when you were playing then on the pitch, would it have been in your mind, like, like, you know, maybe I shouldn't run this hard, or, you know, would you have been?
I don't think I would ever
wary.
I wouldn't have pulled back at any stage, but you would be wary that if I go here, it wasn't going to tear or anything. Like, it wasn't that kind of an injury, but if I go here, it's going to be sore. But then the ball will come your way, and it just goes out of your mind, and you go.
You just have to do it,
but like for when I came back was the 29th of December, I think. And I remember my dad and my sister, I think, were in the stand at a nothing game for me. But like, in terms of the level it was, but it meant everything to me, and they were there, and it was brilliant. But I was kind of like, that was really sore. The weather was chronic and the pitch was brutal, so that's obviously the reason why. And I was not used to stooping down to make tackles. I was used to running straight lines and running different ways. So that was the reason it was sore. And then I remember going into, there was a sand-based pitch over in Leeds, and that was the reason why it was sore. And then the weather started getting better, or it was kind of frosty, or the ground was harder, and that was the reason it was sore. And it was always sore. We were always trying to find the reason why, but I probably got fooled into it by the opportunities I was given in terms of games, and I kind of just drove on, and the physios were happy for me to drive on, because you might not get those opportunities. If I cried off injured again and I was out for long enough and I wrecked their heads for long enough to come back, that they probably was like, I'll leave them off, see if you can get through it, and we deal with that afterwards, like, you know.
So the next question was, as a young player in the Munster squad, was there anybody who kind of took you under the wing when you first were involved?
I think, like, when I was first in there, it was a split squad, way more than it is now with the Cork and Limerick kind of divide, and you go back to your centre. But I think both groups were probably very close, but I think the Cork group was it was a good group for me anyway. I don't think, like, there was a lot of kind of, there was a few older figures, alright, like Dennis Hurley was a good guy for answering questions for a guy, and kind of, he had a lot of knowledge on the game, and he would have told you everything he knew. Like, you sit down with him forever. But everyone would have an impact on your game at some stage. I remember, like, and I'd probably leave everyone out, but, you know, Donnacha Ryan was one of the fellas I spoke to the day I decided my hamstring was injured and that I had to go get it looked at. And I was in bits, hiding behind the van. And Donnacha Ryan came over to me because he'd been through enough injuries that he knew the feeling, like, and they're the kind of things that you might not be very close to everybody in the squad, but everybody looks out for each other, and you'd be surprised at who turns up at different times, like.
The next one in is a bit of a meaningful one, but who had the biggest impact on your career? It's probably a tough one to answer. Sorry, so many people helped you along, but
yeah, I suppose it depends what angle you're going with. Like, obviously your family and my girlfriend and my friends would all have had a big impact on me, you know, if you're looking at it that way. Professionally, Ken O'Connell was the first probably professional coach that I had, and he kind of, I think he has an impact on everybody, anyone that's under 17 and 18, and the fellas that I would have grown up with through those ages, we still speak about him, like, and I'm still in contact with him. So he definitely kind of he brings you into the kind of professional setup very early, and what it's supposed to mean to you. A lot of people have different meanings in your career as you go through it. Obviously Axel had an impact on everybody's career, because he was the guy at the time that brought everyone my age through, and even fellas above and below me, so he had to have an impact on it. I don't know, you're watching players, they all impacted in certain ways, but I don't think there's any one influence on it.
Yeah, there's many factors, like, there.
Yeah, I suppose my dad was all over it as well. And both my parents would drive you up and down the country, like, if they're not the biggest impact on you, then I don't know what is, like, or even trying to, you know, all the family connections, like, you don't go anywhere without them, so they have to be up there.
Yeah, very good.
And another question then was, who is the best manager or coach that you worked under, or played under, probably?
I enjoyed Squeaks, Brian Walsh, a lot because of the way he played, or the way he wanted us to play the game. I just kind of, I thought it suited me slightly, and I went out to him from UCC, so that was a nice one. A lot of kind of feeling your way through the game as opposed to more structure, so I enjoyed that a bit. Rob Penny kind of gave us a different sight on the game when we went to playing 2-4-2. We probably never knew there was any different structures and packs before that happened. Like, and he got all the forwards to learn how to pass the ball a bit, and so we could all play better rugby. Like, and next thing you would, like, James Cronin and Killer throwing these sweet passes out behind that we never threw in Irish rugby, like, you know. So not in my eyes anyway. So he kind of opened up a lot of our games to what the difference between Irish rugby around the corner and that you can actually do something as a 2-4-2, and then Razzie came in and we did a 1-3-3-1 and all that kind of stuff. So he kind of touched on a few different things in terms of coaching, but you learn from all of them.
Yeah, and the next one then, this is a tough one now, but if you had the chance to replay one match, what would it be and why? It's a very tough question.
It is a tough one. I'd always want to play my last game again because I didn't think I went that well. I actually didn't go very well. I wasn't striking the ball well. I remember soloing the ball at one stage because I made a brutal decision and I soloed it and then offloaded it to Francis and he dropped it. Imagine that, like. And I remember OB soloed the ball down here in CIT. I went off injured, shock, and and he soloed the ball against us. He made a shit decision as well, but his worked out for him at under 18 level. I did it in Thomond Park in my own 22 against Scarlet's last game of the season, and we were fighting for 6th place. Like, so I don't think that was my proudest moment, and I just wasn't striking the ball very well. So I definitely played that one again. Probably play my injured one again, and decide to go off with a different injury first, and not bother getting injured for long term. I don't know. Like, I'd love to play the Leinster one again, and I enjoyed it, but I'd love to give it another crack. I'd love to not come off. But it's all in hindsight. Like,
exactly.
I wouldn't have changed anything. There's loads of games I wasn't very happy with.
Yeah.
I just blur them out now because there's plenty of them, and I don't think you're ever going to be really happy with games when you come off anyway. The odd one you'll
always find something,
but you're going to find something everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'd probably play a load of them again. I'd start again if you wanted me to play them all.
So the next question in was sent in by a viewer who actually has played against you when he was younger. So how he worded it was, I used to play rugby against Johnny when he was with Sunday as well, and he always broke our hearts as his kicking game was outstanding for his age. So the question I have for him, sorry now, turn over the page. Did he receive much coaching regarding his kicking, or is it something that he had natural capabilities with?
I suppose when I was at that age anyway, like I wouldn't have had much kicking coaching at that age. I don't think I was pinging anyone into the corner or anything. We're looking back at rose tinted glasses, but yeah, like I would have played a lot of soccer, a lot of football. I love sport. Like, I would have played them all. So in terms, I suppose there's an argument to be made in the whole natural world in sport. I don't know the answer to that one, but I think I would have practiced a lot, and I would have wrecked my brother's head trying to, like, kicking the ball off the wall on my own, asking to play for longer. He didn't care. Like, he played enough. He played the normal amount, and I wanted to play more. So in terms of natural, I probably I just did a lot of kicking when I was younger, of whatever it was. I definitely wasn't the best kicker of a ball. Like, I don't know. I suppose I played in midfield in soccer. I played in midfield in football and the half forward line and stuff. I was able to kick a score from time to time. Like, but in terms of rugby, I didn't get much coaching until I went to UCC. Yeah, I did get coaching. Like, I mean, that's unfair. Like Ken Arrigo out in Sun as well would have done a lot of, like, good coaching with us. But in terms of one-on-one kicking, I was out in the farm and in Sun as well. With my brother and my dad would have probably kicked as many balls back to me as anyone did. Yeah. But Gary Byrne in UCC was I think my first. Before that, actually, sorry, I went out with Barry Keeshan and Jeff. I can't remember Jeff's second name. out in Dolphin when I was under 18. John O'Sullivan was our coach, and we were kind of toying around with trying to get me to go up with a session or two with Rog. Ken O'Connell was trying to set it up. And I went for one with Jeremy Manning. I went for one with Paul Warwick. Was injured for the Paul Warwick one, and Stephen's Day one Christmas time, and so I was gutted about that. So some other young fella was kicking, and I can't remember who it was, and I was gutted with that because it was like, you don't get kicking sessions at that age, like, especially with someone like that. And then so I got we couldn't get me kicking with Rog all the time, even as much as I wanted to make it happen. Like, so Barry Keeshan was kicking with me for a while. But it was just kind of reps and getting with an older fella who knew how to kick. Like, I don't know, was he top point scorer in the AL or fairly close to it anyway, so he knew how to kick a ball. And then I went out to UCC, and Gary Byrne was very methodical with kicking coaching, and I think he's finishing up a PhD in physiology or something. Like, he's all into that. He was quite good to me. So Cosy then was the next one in Munster, who would have done a lot with me, but the Cork and Limerick thing again, like, Cosy couldn't be down here as much as he was in Limerick, and like JJ would put a lot of his kicking in Northampton, and I think he wasn't as happy with it in Northampton, and he would have put a lot of that down to not kicking with Cosy 2 and 3 times a week, you know. I didn't really get that down here in Cork, but I was, you know, there was a lot of effort to kick with me, but it just wasn't going to be the same. Like, logistically it couldn't happen, but I definitely got a lot of coaching at that level. But I still like to kick a ball. Like, I'd be confident enough with a ball in hand, even though a lad in work beat me in a kicking competition when it was a disgrace. Like, I couldn't
recently
hit a barn
enough
door.
is it?
He was very lucky. He was very, very lucky, and I just couldn't hit a barn door for some reason. I don't know why.
It was just an off day. So the next one we had then was, did you find not going to a rugby school, so we know you went to Creech, which is all football, did you find people who did go to rugby schools kind of didn't rate you then as a top rugby player because you didn't go to a rugby school?
Yeah, I suppose like the lads that I played it with and against, and not that they wouldn't rate me, but your name definitely isn't thrown around there as much. Like you didn't play in the Senior Cup semi-final against Munchins or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you don't have those stories to tell. They don't care if you beat Bandon in an under-16 semi-final.
Yeah.
You know, so it's definitely, I think, the harder route. But I don't know. Like if I went to school at the time, I just think the way my development went, I was definitely a smaller teenager, still a smaller guy. Like I might not have even come out the other side of school's rugby, you know. So a lot of fellas have to change positions in school. There's just a lot of players and a lot of very good players. I might not even have been a 10, you know. I might have been thrown on the wing. I might have been thrown a scrum half. I don't know what would have happened if I went to a school. So I think my path worked for me, and I was very happy with it. It probably gave me a bit of an edge as well. A bit of chip on the shoulder, like trying to beat the Pres lads at everything because there's so many of them. So it kind of gave you that motivation, I suppose, the underdog thing the whole time, like, and you're always up against it. You never really have time to rest because you're trying to catch someone else. Whereas I think the schools lads were used to being on top, and maybe trying to stay on top is harder than coming from behind sometimes. So I think it stood to me slightly.
Yeah. And another one was, what was it like being in an environment with players like Ronan O'Gara and Paul O'Connell?
It's insane. Like you don't get that opportunity, and a lot of lads. I know I came out of the game at 26 or 25. I'm 26 now. I can't remember
I'm
my age.
25. Like
I came out of it at 25, and you know I kind of disappointed. But people keep reminding you what you've done, and not everyone gets a chance to do it. So a lot of lads do get a chance to do it, but there's a lot more that don't get the chance at all. And even to stay in there for a good couple of years, like that's something in itself.
Yeah.
And I remember being over in Fort Chill. Raj was like, we were kind of at the age where you take the gym when it was free. You don't really get a choice, like. I remember Raj was kind of in the way of our session, but he didn't care because he was passing the ball. I think it was actually Tomas was hitting him, and he would hit someone else across the whole gym, like, and he'd hit someone every time in the chest, like. And then you go, fuck, Jesus, and he was cursing and all this kind of, and I was like, what's wrong with your man? Like he probably just won a Heineken Cup, and he's not happy with his pass straight into somebody's chest. Now, if I look back at it now, I could probably see that maybe it was here or not here or whatever, like whatever it was. But at the time, I was a young fella, and I just thought, this guy's insane. He keeps passing the ball perfectly to somebody, and he's not happy with anything. And then I suppose like Paulie and people like that, even Peter Manning now, like they're just really critical thinkers, like, and critical of things as well. You know, just the standards, you don't settle for anything. Felix is another guy. You just question everything. I remember Paulie in a team meeting just kept questioning everything to the point where it got awkward. No one wanted to answer it, and kind of asking, why is there 10 there? It wasn't me, by the way. I would have freaked if it was. Like, why is he there? And the 10 was in the room, like, I don't even remember who it was, and it's like, oh god, the answer now, or it's going to get very awkward, and kind of like, okay, brush past it now because you're not getting the answer. But it's like, no, why isn't he there? You know, and it's like, you
have to answer, like,
and even the coach was getting awkward at that stage, like. But another game, actually, there was a game for Paul O'Connell when he was, I don't know, was he injured or was suspended or something, and he had to get game time because he was coming back in for like an important week or something. So we all played a game in Garryowen, and he was, I came on. I was still young compared to what, like, there was a lot of senior lads playing as well. Anyone who needed game time probably played it. A lot of, like, anyone really did. And I came on at 10, and I think I had to go on as this try got scored against Paul's team, and he was kind of, it was all about him. So like running back, I had to kick the ball off, and at that stage I wouldn't have been very structured with my restarts anyway. I'm only getting used to kicking it higher, kicking it lower, kicking it long, you know. And then he's telling me to put that one on me, kid. And I was like, oh no.
I don't want this pressure. Like,
if I don't hit this, my life is over. Like, you know. So there's pressure in there, and you learn from fellas, and it's class. Being exposed to that kind of an environment, you have to kind of thrive in there. And if you don't thrive in that, then you're probably not suitable for the job, you know. So. It's really cool being in there, to be fair. Yeah,
it's like something we all dream of doing, like, only if you get to do it. So the next one I was sent in was, what advice would you give to people who may be conflicted between playing GA and rugby? Like, we know you had to make the choice. And
I did have to make a choice, and I remember playing a minor county final, and it was after already going into UCC. Because the guy, they structure everything very well, and everything runs on time. But I had to ask for the weekend off rugby. Like, and in UCC, it was kind of like an academy setup at the time. Like, and we felt like it anyway. It was quite professional for what it was, and it probably still is. But I had to ask Gary Byrne, can I miss the game because of a minor county final, like with all the lads I grew up with, I wasn't going to miss it, like, and it was a normal league game in UCC, and he wasn't very happy with me, like, so the choice was nearly made. I knew I was winding down from football anyway, but you just can't do both at the same time, I don't think, at that level when you're kind of stepping up. And I'd say the reason I started playing rugby over anything else was it got there first. Like, I played a bit of soccer at Kennedy Cup level and stuff like that, but I was never going to England, like, I was never at that level. And I got a bit frustrated with that anyway, so that kind of went first. And then I suppose the Munster youth started, and it was South Munster under 17 or something started before any minor trials or games or whatever happened, so they got there first. And Mick Slocum from the Bars was the minor coach at the time, so he wanted me involved. And I'd say only the fact that rugby got there first, it was kind of an easier decision. But if the minor thing happened before that, I don't know.
It would have been a tough one.
It would have been a tough one. But I think, I don't know, maybe rugby would have always won out. But I don't know, it's very hard. It is
a tough one to ask.
It is very hard. I don't know how fellas should make decisions. I don't think you should make it based on what your career could be or whatever. Just enjoy it and
how you feel about it. Like,
maybe weigh up what you think you're better at. Maybe there's opportunity somewhere to, like, will I be in this team for a long time or whatever. But I don't know. It's a very hard one to do. I always say, like, it's the same when you're changing clubs in rugby. Like, people ask, and like, I'd be dealing with younger fellas at the moment, obviously in con as well, and they're kind of like, trying to make their mind up, but it's never the right decision until you do it. Like, and then you make the decision and you back it and you never look back, because at the time that was the decision. You can't change it. And you kind of just make it fit. You know, I don't think you can foresee what's going to happen. So.
Perfect. And the next one then was sent in, speaking of GA, what's your favourite memory of GA?
I think I suppose the second minor county that we won, down in Parky Queeve, with kind of, they were the lads, they were my age. Like, we won a minor and the 21s, and then we won the last minor. I suppose it was my last football game as well, probably looking back in it fondly, like, kicked one or two scores down HQ. I missed a brutal one as well, and we have a video of it, and the commentary is hilarious. Like, they
don't let you forget it. Like,
no, they don't. And actually, my brother tried to watch the game recently, and the disc isn't working, so we must get it working. I'd say that's the best one, but like, that team was fairly good. I remember being younger and going out after I think it was the under-21 game, and all the older fellas looking after you, and you kind of felt like, you're part of a good group. So I think winning helps, because I look back on my time with the 20s in UCC as an unbelievable time as well, but we won the All-Ireland, so it definitely helps. Like, anyone you win with, I don't think you forget them. So definitely those couple of games where we won with the Bars were cool.
And I'd say this next question kind of ties into what you were speaking about there, but this one was sent in by Owen Kennefic. He said, what are your favourite sporting moments besides winning a minor county with Owen Kennefic, with himself?
He just wanted to get mentioned.
I don't know whatever happened to Owen Kennefic. He just kind of went off the face of the earth when it came to football. A decent player, I suppose, back in the No, but it's actually hard to tell, like, what your favourite moments are. Again, like I said, winning is always going to be enjoyable.
Yeah, winning a trophy.
I'm probably too competitive on that front, but winning it definitely makes a difference. And I remember, like, growing up under 14 and 16 with Son as well were class, because I played with my brother the whole way through. Ryan Garrett, one of my better friends growing up, we all played with Son as well, and the three of us, if one of us was sick from training, the whole lot of us were sick because we were doing something together. So that was a good time in terms of, like, the group we had, and we were just living in each other's pockets. Like, it was we had loads of good times there. And in that Bars group there, like, we were together for a good few years, and it's rare that, I suppose, minors stay together at under 21. Everyone goes their separate ways. So it was again, it was successful, and we probably had a couple of pints after things we won, so that was enjoyable as well. But you can't take it away. Like, Leinster in the Aviva has to be way up there. And I remember, and people are probably sick of listening to it, but and people always ask me about the Leinster game, but, like, I remember I was in the Shelburne, is it, or wherever we were staying. What's the one across the way from the Tree Arena? It's not the Shelburne. Whatever it is. I remember being in there, and my brother Snapchatting me. Him and the lads were on the beer, like, and I was like, oh, I'd love to be with them as well. But I'm part of the entertainment, so I have to be on the other side of it. And my family were going up there, and Chloe was there. And I remember just kind of the pride that you feel when you know people understand kind of you're their main attraction, like, and their kind of claim to fame at the time. So and the game went kind of well for me personally, even though we lost it. So. And the biggest game I played, so that has to be up there.
Yeah.
And I remember Alex Wootton asking me about 3 weeks later, did I have family in the stand, and that'll tell you like how much it meant to everybody, because he didn't know who they were, but he knew a mile away that they were related to me. So that sticks with me.
Yeah, perfect.
And we just found out earlier, well, I just found out you knew, that Johnny's actually a triplet. And someone sent in a question: who's better looking, you, Johnny, or your brother Cormac?
There's only one answer all the time, and yeah, like I might have stole a few things from Cormac, but I definitely didn't steal the looks. I stole his rugby
be the pretty boy,
ability,
so
yeah, his brains. No, he'll take that one.
Brilliant.
And then these kind of next few questions are kind of just general rugby topics that were sent in.
Yeah.
So the first one would be that was sent in. Your thoughts on concussion in rugby, and is it a big problem?
I had a few of them, so I have an opinion on it. I don't know about this big problem. Like it can
happen in any sport, really.
It's an issue. Like it happens in fighting, it happens in any sport. I think you'll find that people are coming away from underage sport at different levels with concussions these days. But like people are getting quite big, and it's not great being a smaller guy in front of them. Like you get knocks and bangs, and I definitely have 1 or 2 concussions. But I don't know how you stop that. Like you can't outlaw everything to make the game brutal, and then. Like I don't know. People are getting faster. They're stronger. They're more dynamic. It's difficult. Like you look at the game now, and you look at it 10, 20 years ago. Every decade it's changing. Like it's going to change again. They're freaks now playing the game.
There's some big lads.
They are freaks, but I don't know how you're supposed to stop them from fulfilling their physical potential as well as their athletic potential, and then stop them from doing what they're good at just because they're causing trouble. You see these fellas even in Australian and New Zealand schools rugby, and they're putting some shots on fellas, and like that's just raw power. Maybe there's an issue with, like, obviously there's going to be drugs in every sport. I don't know how rampant it is in rugby. I don't know much about it. People have an opinion on it. I don't think that's going to stop, because there are the fellas with the genetic potential to hit those heights. Other fellas are probably just trying to catch up, so I don't think that's going to stop it either. I don't know what will, but there are, I suppose, and I don't know, with everything, the more you kind of put it in the limelight, the more you're starting to hear about it. So maybe we're just starting to hear more about it as opposed to more and more of them happening. It's probably a bit of both. Yeah. But I don't want the game to change to stop more concussions. You know what I mean? The game is the game. You see fellas putting in unbelievable traditional tackles, picking a guy up. You'd always hear fellas say, I picked him up and drove him back. You're not even allowed to pick him up anymore, which is... It's good for people's health, but the spectacle is class when you see a dominant hit like that. So it is kind of annoying that way that the game is changing, but it does have to happen for some of the injuries that are occurring.
It's a bit of a trade-off, like how much of the game you lose versus your health and all that kind of side of it. So to bounce to another hot topic at the moment.
Yeah, it's massive.
Simon Zebo. So he's heading to France. What are your thoughts of it? And if you were in his shoes, would you follow suit?
I'll answer the last bit first. The money wouldn't be bad. Like I don't know. I'm a home bird. I'd find it hard to go anywhere unless it's a holiday. Like so I don't know. I know when I'm going back. I know when I'm going home, and it's easier. They're enjoyable. But I don't know about moving away. Like I'm not sure if I could have ever done it. Depends on your situation at the time. What your family situation is and stuff like that. But I don't know. Like. I'm gutted, by the way, because like I think when you say Munster rugby, you don't have to go through too many words before Simon Zebo pops up. So he is a lot to do with Munster at the moment, and he is the kind of the entertainment there in terms of the flair that he can bring. So I think a lot of people would feel the same as me, that we're gutted that he's going, but not resentful at all in any way that he is going, because you can't take it away from him. Like there's money to be made, and that's the way the game is going. So what do you have to do? Like I probably would have liked to see him stay for another contract and then go, maybe, because everyone knew he was going to go. He was very open with that, and that's a nice way to be honest about it. People kind of are afraid to talk about moving anywhere, especially from the Irish provinces. Like it's nearly a sin to get away from your own province, and I'd feel like that. Like there's one goal is to play professional rugby. I don't think that was ever the goal. Like the goal was to play with Munster, and that evolves as your career actually goes into professional sport. That's part of it. But I'd have liked to have seen him stay for one more contract, but that's a selfish point of view. Like, I'd like to see him stay for another contract. You know, would he get the same benefits? Would he make the same amount of money? Would he do the same stuff after rugby? Make the same connections? Who knows? Like, you know, so you can't take any of that away from him.
Perfect. And the next one we have then, this is, I like this question out, I was sent in, but what is Johnny's opinion on Paul Kimmage saying that there's an issue with painkillers in rugby? I think Paul Kimmage is a bit of a controversial journalist. So
Paul Kimmage is a very controversial journalist, and I watched the thing with the kind of, is it the left wing with him and Luke Fitzgerald?
Yeah.
We just
watched it earlier,
Which got very awkward as well.
Very awkward,
but I think Luke Fitzgerald stood up to him quite well for a guy who's only kind of starting his career.
Well, like Luke Fitzgerald, like that. Like,
and like Paul Kimmage was obviously going to come with the facts, and he came with folders.
Yeah,
and,
like
I don't think with Luke Fitzgerald. I don't think with Luke Fitzgerald's experience in the industry, he was ever going to stop something like that from happening. He was obviously trying to overwhelm him, like. Yeah. Which I thought he was a bit of a bully on it, to be fair.
He was even slamming down the fight, but Luke Fitzgerald did it back, like, just to point, like.
I didn't like how he dealt with it, and I don't like how he's going after rugby just because his cycling bubble has burst, you know. He'll, like, that thing of, there's a French rugby player going to come out and say we're all on drugs, like, get out of here, you know. Give it a rest and find something else to give out the brain about, because I don't know, I just don't think there's any need for it. In terms of painkillers, people take painkillers, like, they get through games because of painkillers. They'll suffer from them at the end of it. Like, obviously it's not great for your gut, it's not great for a lot of things, it's not good for the injury if you're doing it long term. That's a personal decision. It's not outlawed, not as far as I know. So if you're acting within the laws, then it's not the players the problem, it's the rules. And if he wants to go and tackle the rules, then fair enough, off with you, but don't pick people out individually. And I don't know, I don't like that part of it. I don't like him causing a fuss for no reason.
Exactly.
Go pick on the rest of the cyclists that are still at it. I don't know.
I'd say still riddled. So then another topic again, bouncing again, international rule. So players like Bundyaki and CJ Stander and stuff being able to declare for Ireland. Just your thoughts on it, basically.
So my thoughts would have changed in this recently, and I think it just came a bit closer to home in the fact that Rory Scannell got left out of his squad for Bundyaki, and I thought Rory's worked very well in terms of getting into that Irish squad and being a big player for his age, you know. So that kind of just made it a bit more real, and I thought it was unfair. Again though, like the Paul Kimmage thing, it's not the player's fault. Like, I played with CJ for a few years and I never had any issue with him being as Irish as he is, like, you know. I didn't see the issue with it. I was delighted when he was selected. Then the Bundyaki thing happened, and it's not Bundyaki's issue either. He's a great player as well, and a lot of people will get over that when he starts playing more games for rugby for Ireland, because he's going to be a good player. Like, he's going to be very hard to get out of the midfield for anybody. So I don't know, I think it's a difficult one. It does seem a bit mad that you're qualified for Ireland after 3 years or 5 years now or whatever it is, like. But like, what again? If it's hard, you can't just say, "Oh, he came here to play rugby and he came here when he was 15 for a different life." You know, where does the rules stop? You know, you can't.
It is a very strange one. Like, when you compare it to soccer, at least, like, you have to be born in that country to.
But if you look at I suppose that is one thing. Do you have family there, or is someone even slightly connected? Maybe that's something to look at. But you know, you look at the English squad, or any of them English. If you go through it, like, you'd be very surprised at who's not English or where they've come from or whatever. And not just England, loads of squads.
There's a lot of teams.
I suppose it's becoming a bit of a professional and career choice now to go somewhere. The whole project player thing, I'll do 3 years here, and they've invested in me for 3 years. They know I'm going to get selected for at least a game, because otherwise their refused investment seems like a waste of money. So they're going to try their best to make the shoe fit, I suppose, and get him into the squad for some bit of time anyway. But like, I don't know how you go.
How you stop it,
really.
Like,
what are you supposed to do? Like,
it starts. You know, you can't really just turn around.
And you can't be happy for one guy and not happy for another guy. Because he's from Munster and he's from Connacht.
Exactly.
I don't think the 5 year thing is a bad idea. Maybe make it a little bit harder. Anyone can do 3 years anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. You have to commit.
But they're still going to do it. Maybe they're going to come here earlier. Maybe you get, 17, 18-year-olds now declaring for a different country and trying to see the future. Like, but I don't know.
Yeah, it is a tough one. So the next one that was sent in was, what role does the AIL play in producing talent for the provinces?
Topical one in terms of anyone who's interested in the AIL will have a strong opinion on it, but I think it's a big thing. I know, like, when you're in the situation, you're playing academy games or you're playing A games and stuff, you think the A game is the best thing for you. and I definitely felt like that at times, and I also felt the other way at times. I wasn't out training on a Tuesday with Con when all my games were coming from Con. I wasn't really playing a whole load of A games or senior games, and I just felt like I wanted to train more with my club. So there's both sides to it, but the AL has definitely produced some good players like Joey Carberry. Probably played a very good final against Con, and then he got into the Leinster. Maybe he's getting into the Leinster squad anyway. He's probably still in the academy there, but like, you know, fellas who aren't really around the squad or in the A squad can definitely do a lot of damage there. And I think if you weaken it, you see a lot of people saying like, oh, he played very well in the AL. Oh yeah, but it's only AL. But he might have also played very well there if we allow the players to come back there and play it. Then the standard is up. Then you definitely know if someone's able to go on to the next level. But the only issue with that is that you're not playing in the system that you're going to be going into with Munster or Leinster, whoever it is. So there's two sides to that. But I think it's like there's definitely something to be done with it. I think there's changes going to happen with it anyway. So trying to make it a bit, kind of bridge that gap again. But it's definitely, it plays a massive role. You saw it like years back, not too many years back, but kind of 90s and even on further, that it played a massive role in terms of everybody playing against everybody and teams being very strong, and you get the strongest games every week. It's only going to improve everybody, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's another question sitting about AIL. Who's the best example of an AIL player that was missed at academy age but made it eventually at the provincial level?
There's a couple of Dara Fanning is probably a good example, isn't he?
He's the lad who owns Zambrero.
Yeah.
Or he's part of it anyway, I don't know.
I think I actually read an article on him recently. I would have played a good bit against him with Mary's, and then he played with Leinster for a bit. The article was I think he went to Australia for a small while playing rugby, and he met a guy down there who opened it in Australia, and then when he came out of the game he brought it back here. So great business opportunity. Lovely burritos.
I've actually never had it, so
put the tortilla chips into the burrito. It just makes a bit of a difference.
A bit of crunch.
I'll have to try it now and do it that way. Like
I remember playing against him at Mary's, and I hated when he's a big winger, and teams play their wing off their 10 because the 10 has to tackle him when the 7 pushes off the back of the line to cover the 10. The 10 then, the defensive 10 has to either get the big winger or the big 12, and there was no compromise with him. So he's one that I definitely remember going into a professional game, because I think he was a small bit older as well. Like there's the likes of I think Joey Carberry made a bit of a name in the AL, but he was going to go on anyway. Sweets probably did the same, and there's loads of players. I won't be able to think of them off the top of my head. Like John Ryan came back in, Ivan Deneen came back in, maybe not fully from the AL, but after leaving the academy system. But I think Dara Fanning is one, or Mick McGrath came in for a small while. They were just playing AL. I don't think they had much connection to the academy at the time, so they're probably better ones.
Cool.
Yeah, and then we just have the last one here. It was sent in. It's a little over a year since Anthony Foley's passing. What did he mean to you? I know he meant a lot to the Munster fans and to everyone involved with Munster. And
he meant a lot to everybody. And it was like I said earlier. I think I got 2 different chances from Axel when I came out of under-19s rugby with Munster. I don't know why, but he gave me a chance in an A game against an English side, and I got to travel with the lads, and it was just a big moment for me, and it was kind of a one that you remember, kind of a wake up call in terms of how close you are. So that was one of them, and then obviously he stuck with me 2 years ago when he mightn't have had to, and it kind of made a brave call on me, or I thought it was brave anyway, and I appreciated it. But that's not only exclusive to me. Everybody has that story. I know, even the likes of Conor Murray would say that, a big player who was going to make it through anyway, and he'd still put some of that down to Axel. I remember Ronan saying it. All these fellas who were similar to my age, or a good bit above me, they would all put a lot of their effort and their opportunity down to Axel. But I think he embodied Munster anyway. He was you couldn't get anyone who was more Munster. So I think it was just because he was such a legend of the game, the way he played it himself anyway, and then he coached as well. Maybe it didn't go as well in the end as what we would have hoped it went, but he had a couple of roles in Munster. No one really did more than him in there, so it means a lot to people, and I think people connected with him in a load of different levels. The reaction to it was insane. I wasn't in the squad when it happened, so it was a really weird situation for me, being so far away from it, but it being really close to me as well. I think I reacted quite weirdly to it, but I was also on the beer with the lads over in Newcastle, so it was a bit of a weird message to get when you're at the end of that. But it didn't really hit me for a long way. Like it was weird. He was never really gone for the whole time. Like people were talking about him and talking about him, and it was like he is still around. Like, you know, I didn't really feel like he was gone.
Like,
so
they actually talked about that a lot in the documentary that was brought out. Like that.
I didn't actually watch that yet. Chloe's mum recorded it for me, and my parents recorded it for me alone. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah,
but
it's brilliant.
But
like I won't spoil anything in it.
Yeah,
He's an awful spoil.
yeah, but like, it just the amount of time I went on for, and the actual size of the reaction. I don't think, like when I heard the news first, obviously it was strange, but I don't think I expected that type of reaction either. You nearly forget how much of a legend he was.
Yeah.
So that's the end of the viewer questions.
Yeah, there was plenty sent in. Jesus,
fair play for answering all them.
Owen Kennefic probably responsible for most.
But we're not finished yet. We've had a few questions ourselves that we.
Can we talk more about Owen Kennefic? What he's doing in the fitness space?
His Kenny's Munch on Instagram.
he's doing very well for himself.
Yeah, we see him a lot around CIT.
We do, he's a big fan actually.
We get him on for a podcast.
Absolutely,
he'd love that. Like,
he would, he's a big fan.
Big fan of boxing as well. You can maybe watch a boxing fight with him and just.
You'd get some different reactions out from him if you asked him some questions. You want to make sure you look back over it before you go publishing it.
Censor it before you put it out. So
we're going to work it. We're going to let Kev run through all the questions he wants to ask first, and then I'm going to ask my few after.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, perfect.
Simple as that.
So I suppose my first one would have been, we know you played with Cork, and you touched on it earlier that you played with Sunday as well. Was that the first club you played rugby with Sunday as well, or?
God, no.
No,
I played them all.
Where did it start for you really? Like, was the?
My dad played junior rugby with Douglas, and I think we were 5 going up to under 6 training in Douglas, and he was. I don't know what the actual thing was there, but I think the junior captain kind of coached the underage or whatever happened. He was doing it anyway, so we went up with him, and then that wasn't really the greatest setup in the world, so we went to Dolphin for a while because his friend was doing that, and that wasn't the greatest setup at the time. So we jumped over the little brow of the hill to Sunday as well. At least I stayed there for 8 years. I didn't keep hopping, and then I went to UCC for 2 years. Before I went to Con, where I am still, thank God. I have to spend some bit of time in some clubs, but it started quite young. And Sun as well was probably the main stint in my underage in terms of actually playing some rugby and learning a lot in there. And UCC was big as well, but Con is the next biggest one, I suppose. UCC was huge for me, but Con is the second longest stint. So it's. And going from player to coach, I suppose, is different as well. There's a lot in there as well for me.
Yeah, perfect. And the next one that I have, in November 2013, you made your Munster debut against Cardiff Blues. What was that feeling like, to...
Yeah, it was weird.
Did you kind of know before the game it was happening, or was it just...
You definitely, you go onto the bench a couple of times, and you should, I think, you don't know at the time, but you should be told you're not coming on here. You can't be told that, but that's the situation. And there's a lot of fellas go through that. It's weird. It feels like the camera's actually just on you. Like you go running on, you're like, oh God, is everyone looking at me? It just feels very weird. It's obviously class. It's a great feeling. You feel very exposed or something in a way. I remember I didn't even touch the ball. I made a tackle under 12 coming off a maul, which is a kind of a tough situation for a 10. Tackling a 12 coming down hard in your channel. So I was happy I hit him low and got out of there and survived, because I think we were within a score. I'm not sure. We were defending for our lives anyway a bit. So I didn't touch the ball. And then I came on against Connacht in Thomond Park. I don't know, was that kind of around Christmas time. And I got to kick the ball to touch from a penalty. And it was only a couple of minutes as well. I remember Simon Mannix kind of slagging me, being like, oh, someday now you're going to touch the ball and play. And I was kind of like, oh, thanks, but no thanks. Like, you didn't put me on. Like, I touched the ball and play if you played me for longer. So it took a bit of time before I actually got to get my hands on the ball.
Brilliant.
And then this is where it's leading to next. Now, you spoke about it earlier already, but you scored all 13 points for Munster against Leinster. But what I kind of want to know is, for you individually, that was a massive performance. You're leaving the pitch and you're going, Jesus Christ, I scored all 13 points. But then you lost the game as well. Yeah. So going into the dressing room, were you kind of just wary of going in and just not having a smile on your face?
I do kind of care about losing, but that one I didn't really care a whole lot. I was happy. You're not supposed to say that.
Exactly.
But I really didn't.
I'd do the same as well.
I was happy enough with what I did, and going off, I was like, Jesus, protect the 13 points that I had. I can't make any more mistakes. I'd actually dropped a terrible ball just before I came off. And the coaches probably said that I was dust, I was tired, and maybe it was time to bring someone more experienced on. But I was delighted with myself. I couldn't have done a whole lot. Like, I mean, there's loads I could have done in terms of how I played the game, and you go back and critique it. But like, if you told me that I was going to go on and score 13 points, get a try for Munster in a game like that and convert it myself, it's a strange. You're not going to be disappointed with that, even if you get beaten by a lot. Now I remember Killer tapping and going in front, like at the end of it, and going, "What is he doing?" He should like. But I would like you've the disappointment of losing it, but I wasn't too disappointed coming off the pitch.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of thought as much. But then you were told at the start of your rehab as well that you'd never be kind of the same player again. Yeah. Did you kind of appreciate that honesty that you were told that, or were you kind of thinking like, I'm going to prove you wrong now? Like,
I didn't believe him, and I was like, he's talking shit.
Yeah,
yeah. That is. I was kind of looking at him strange, going, "What are you doing?" Like, why I didn't understand why I wouldn't be the same kind of player. I was told my hamstring was torn, put it back on, and I'll rehab it. Like, so. I did my best to get back to being the same player and maybe trying to get a bit better, but I didn't understand that I was going to be the end of my career either. I don't think he understood that I was going to be the end of my career, so that's why I was never told this is career threatening, so that's why I was kind of like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm definitely going to get there and beyond because I have a rehab stint to do and I'm going to improve, get bigger, faster and stronger while I'm rehabbing while everyone else is trying to play some rugby, like, so I was like, this guy's talking shit. That's exactly how I felt.
And did you ever have much contact with him after that then, or was?
No, it's actually something that I was probably a bit annoyed about, because with surgeons, like, they're not really into rehab and not into the day-to-day. They stitch you up and get you back out there. Yeah. So I went back a few times, and I went back with I got a bit of a ping in my hamstring doing a running session, and I got it scanned and was told it was all okay. And then I went back with kind of pain still in that, like a lot of tendinopathy there. So I was passed on to Falvey, and that was the end of the surgeon, like kind of 5 or 6 months in, even though at the end of my 6 months I wasn't back on the pitch. So I don't really understand how I can't go back to a surgeon when the job's not done, So maybe there was nothing for him to do for me, but just kind of I didn't probably understand at the time, you're being passed on to Aina here, you're actually not coming back to me at all. I didn't understand that part, but I didn't go back to him, and I haven't spoken to him since. So I don't know, maybe it could have been a little bit different.
Yeah. And I read in an article recently that Joe Smith was quoted as saying that he was keeping an eye on you at one stage. Yeah. And then you were on holiday and you got a text to say Johnny Sexton's out of the squad. Mm-hmm. And instead of kind of being excited and kind of hopeful that you'd get the call, you were kind of more nervous because you didn't feel you could give it. Like, you're all really.
Yeah, there's loads of emotions. Like, I was nervous in case I did get the call. Was I ready for it in terms of my ability, but also in terms of my my physical presence? Was I able to play the game? I was after coming off the back of what felt like a long season, even though I only played half of it. I was afraid of my life that I'd have to cut the holiday short for Chloe's sake. Just after landing in LA, and I was going to make her go home while I went to South Africa, probably on a bit of a holiday, because I wasn't going to play anyway if I did go out there. So there was loads of things going through my head. It was class to be involved in that conversation. But Jesus, a very nervous one as well. Kind of, it's an uncertain time. I was like, there's no way I'm going to get called up there. I wasn't ready to get called up. I don't think. I was definitely quite injured at the time, but even being involved in the conversation is quite cool. Like,
to be talked about it, it's something to get excited about.
I prefer if there was an opportunity for me to go and have a crack off the autumn squad after that, because maybe that was the next thing I'd have been going for. So I wasn't too annoyed with the fact that it was a missed opportunity, because there should have been another one down the line at some stage, hopefully, if I kept going the way I was going, but that didn't happen. So if you told me that was going to be the last time I was going to get in around that squad, I'd have jumped on the plane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Left Chloe in LA with the spending money.
So you could spend her over home,
and figure it out afterwards.
So my final question now for you is that you've mentioned already in the podcast that you were kind of the smaller guy growing up, and that kind of led you into nutrition. Yeah. And then you went on to do the nutrition course, and that's something that you see now for you going forward. Like, is it? Yeah, it's something I'm fairly interested in. I was interested in when I played anyway. Like you said, I was definitely a smaller guy playing rugby. Like, I don't think 13 stone's going to cut it, is it? But so I had to get really into it, and especially it was definitely way before my injury I got into it. But with Catherine, our nutritionist, on site the whole time, and the office just being next to the gym, I just wrecked her head day and night about what's this, what's that, and it was all
probably stupid questions now. If I look back in them, they're the silliest questions ever after you get a little bit more educated in it. But I just didn't stop thinking about my nutrition or my food, and I'd always have something with me. Even like when I was rehabbing, the physio thought you'd be gone by 12 o'clock, but like they don't realise sometimes how unrealistic the rehab program that you have is and how long it actually takes when you're doing it. And I would have brought all my food with me, and I think I just got really bad about everything that I was putting into my body. But I got really into the recovery side of it. What food can actually do for your muscle as it recovers, and how you can speed up the recovery through different nutrients. It was quite interesting, and like I know anytime someone goes into something that they're interested in, it calls it really cool. Someone says nerd, because it doesn't sound that cool to somebody else, but I suppose that does kind of show my interest in it. But I would have gone back to even I think when I was 17 or 18, the classic IRFU kind of handout on nutrition, telling you to eat a few digestive biscuits after the session. And I was going around with my 3 digestive biscuits because that's what they said. So I was into it from going into school with different food. Going around with a Tupperware with cold rice in it when everyone else was having their bog standard Nutella sandwiches. So it kind of goes back a good bit, but I was happy enough to be able to get in and educate myself on it, because that's kind of the next step with it. So yeah, I am looking forward to doing a lot more in that space. I am doing some now, but definitely as a career path, that's where I want to go with it.
Perfect. So will I pass
You're
the
all
baton
wrapped
over
up
to you
perfect,
now?
yeah. I'm gonna
you can take the lead.
So the first question I have for you is a bit of an analogy to sport play myself, hurling, right? And just given that fly half, you're competing with maybe 1 or 2 or 3 other guys for that one kind of position, and we'll say in goals and hurling it's kind of the same thing. You're competing with 1 or 2 other guys for that one position, and I find myself in a way down throughout the years that. Let's say the other guy gets in, I'm basically cursing him, I don't want him to do well, right? And I'd find it hard to be that supportive, the supportive.
You're such a team
guy
player, aren't you?
I just want to be honest. So what I'm asking is going from amateur sport to professional sport at a professional level. Well, I suppose, did you ever find that yourself? And then at a professional level, if you do find yourself the second or third guy, is it a case of, okay, I'm a professional, I get on with it, I am supportive and things like that? Or
anyone who says they don't want I don't know, I think you think if the team wins but he plays poorly, that might be a good situation.
Yeah.
I don't want him to get injured, but if he gets a dead leg, that'd be grand. If he missed 2 or 3 games, I think it depends on the relationship as well. I know Rory, when he was going through the academy, would have been hot on my heels, and we would have been quite close. So that didn't feel like the same situation. We would have been genuinely happy. I felt that like that anyway. Maybe I was a bit older than him, and I got into the position before him, so I was genuinely happy when he was doing well. But at the same time, if Rory got ahead of me, I'd have hated him. And he did. He did get ahead of me, and he's gone way beyond me. But I don't hate him now. But when you're playing, I don't think I was ever really that bad about some fellas don't get on with the guy in their position. They try not to get on with him, and they can't get on with a fella they're trying to compete with. They can't cross that boundary mentally, and I never would have gotten like that. It's just that bit of guilt in the back of your mind that you would wish that he doesn't get it as easy as you, and you do feel guilty for it, because I don't think you can stop those thoughts. I didn't want anyone to play poorly, but you definitely don't want them to play out of their skin either. It's a tough situation. You definitely want the team to go well, and you don't want to be like that about it, but you can't help yourself. It's only natural, let's say.
Yeah.
And would you feel that the 10 is a lonely position, like goalie and hurling? If you make a mistake,
hero or villain kind of situation.
I think defenders have you to help them, whereas you've no one. And would it be the same with you? If you were out there and you were kicking, if you miss it, that's it. You can almost feel the booze, but if you score it, then you're the hero. I think
you have to have quite a mature kind of outlook on it, that your kick wasn't the only thing that made you lose. But now you miss 4 in a row, which I've done. You're definitely to blame, and no one's going to say that outright to you. I think we're all liars, aren't we? We all put on a front, but a lot of the time with a 10, the team goes well and you go poorly, the 10 is a hero. And it's I've definitely played games where fellas are going, oh, you played class, and I was did you, I was non-existent. I don't know how you think I played well, but the team won and the team went well, so it looks good, and it looks good from a 10's point of view. And then when you go, you think you've gone quite well, and things just didn't happen around you, and you've lost, and people are I'm not sure he can control the game, and you're actually losing your mind, thinking I played quite well there, I was happy enough. And I've had that even with my family afterwards in con games, and geez, how are you feeling after that? And you're You're kidding me. I thought I played quite well. Like, so it is a kind of, you don't know what's going on in the position. I think keeper in hurling is difficult because you don't get to have an influence on the game the way a 10 has on the game, and you do obviously have an influence your puck out strategies and how you win the ball as like it's a set piece. But in terms of like you're missing a kick, fair enough, like you get another kick, but like if you have a hole in your hurley, I think the chances of calamities are quite high for hurlers in goal. Like I wouldn't do it. I don't know how you stand in front of a sliotar at that pace. I couldn't do it, and it is, I'd say it like you can feel quite. It would feel quite shit if you left the goal and then you lost by a couple of points, like, you know. Absolutely. It's not a great place to be. It's the same with kicking, but I think you've a whole, you're allowed to be out the pitch and have a good, like, you might miss 5 kicks, but you might have set up 3 tries to catch you over the line, you know. You might have been directly involved in it a bit like that. So I think I understand it, but it's I think it's definitely more isolated as a keeper.
Yeah, it's definitely a kind of a mentality thing as well. I think, like, when I was younger now, like, you could drop a ball, you'd actually nearly be in tears inside the goals. Like,
you see that with keepers though, especially at underage.
As I got old, when myself and I just don't experience, like, it was a case just fucking I couldn't give a shit, like, do you know, that's like, and like, you'd have fellas coming up just saying don't worry about it, and I'm like,
and you haven't been worried about it.
It's like, go ahead, like, I couldn't give a, do you know. So
that does happen with 10s as well. But I've seen a lot of your games and you do leave in a lot of goals.
I'm a G secret fan here. Brilliant. Okay, brilliant answer. So another thing I want to ask is, I think people love, like, kind of behind the scenes and stuff, especially of, like, professional sports people's lives and stuff, just insights. And a question I just want to ask is, like, what is the average day for a professional rugby player?
I suppose it changed for us a few times, and definitely in terms of the academy, it changed a few times. Or like that would have been one of the changes. So in the academy, we would have gone in very early to beat the senior squad in to get the gym, and then you do a bit of skills while they're in the gym, and you might go away for a while to go to college, which I don't know if that happens because it's like, oh yeah, go on to college there, it's 10 o'clock already, you're after missing your first lecture and probably missing your second one. And then you come back in the afternoon and do a bit of training there, and you might go to Limerick or they might come to Cork once a week. Then into the senior setup, we'd have done a lot of our stuff kind of starting 9 or 10 o'clock. But like if you start at 10 o'clock, everyone's definitely in at 9 or even beating the traffic before that. And they'll get their video done. You should be doing that, kind of getting your video done or getting your rehab done or seeing the physio.
And are you like filling out kind of like player surveys and stuff of like how you feel and like how well did you sleep and kind of things like that? Like, we
would have had an iPad or a couple of iPads up on the wall and you fill it in and you do all your markers. Like, but some fellas love filling it out, and other fellas, they've never actually done it, but it's filled out every day. So they don't, you know, so the feedback can be different. Like. But then, like, you know, when I was in the senior setup first, we were gone by lunchtime. Besides the one, well, I suppose we had 2 days that you trained together, and that would have been a longer day. And then you had 2 days you were gone by lunchtime, and then like the fellas doing extras might be around, but training is kind of done at that stage. It might be physio and looking after yourself. The new setup though was, I suppose they're gone now as well, so it might change. But with Razzie and Jack, when they came in, we went Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which was big difference to all of us. Like we weren't used to going on the pitch 3 days in a row. It was nearly like, what are they doing to us? Do they not understand we get a day in between?
We get a rest.
So that was a big change, and I suppose that may be one of the contributing factors as to why I couldn't train weekly, because I couldn't go 3 days in a row and I was missing a lot. And that kind of hit home that I wasn't able to play the game at that level anymore. But so it is important in that you have to manage your body and things like that. But they would, like, it's very full on since they came in, like really full on. A lot of meetings, a lot of long days. We were kind of shocked that we were doing a 9 to 5, and like everyone else is doing a 9 to 5. We were like, what are they making us do? This is full on every day. Like, we're not leaving till 5 and 6 o'clock.
Less time for FIFA.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so but you do get your down day then, and in terms of a down day, fellas are still going kicking or getting their physio done, but you don't actually have to be in to do anything. So at the same time, I suppose people look at you and say you're off during the week, but you're the one putting on the show for everyone else on a Saturday or a Friday night, and you don't get that time off either, and you don't get that time back. It's a bit of a different setup. But I think that varies from club to club what you actually do. Yeah,
interesting. So the next question might be a 2-part question depending on your answer. Who's the best scrum half you've played with?
There's an obvious answer, and there's the answer Tomas O'Leary probably wants. But Murray's obviously I mean, is there anyone better than him? Aaron Smith is up there, but I pick Murray every day. Like, so getting the chance to play with somebody who was actually like top of his profession and working directly with you, has to pass you the ball or you don't get it. Like that's a different situation. So you notice the quality. Tomas wasn't bad either. Like holding the ball. Thank God he tilted the ball for me, so the kicks actually go over. And, he.
We saw that on your Instagram when you shared it.
So he claims. Anyway. He's just happy to take the rest. Well, he's top of the queue for fellas who wanted to lie down. But obviously he was world class as well. Like before he had his eye injury and before Murray kind of pipped him in there, he was top of his game as well. So it's and Peter Stringer was around. They didn't get to play with him a whole lot, but in terms of scrum half, you're talking a lot of very good players there. Like Murray's a different level, to be fair to him. Like and I think he gets a hard time as well in terms of he doesn't get any man of the match awards, even though he gives you the same game every week. The game is built around him. The kicking game is built around him, and people are just like, oh yeah, Murray did what Murray does, and we'll give it to CJ or we'll give it to someone else. And it's like, do you not see the guy who's just playing week in week out at a top level? Like,
they just have him on that kind of pedestal, like, and it's expected from him.
So it's not like, Murray played well, but give him the man of the match, you know.
So I was going to ask you a two-part question, but I think you answered it in one, which is amazing. So
what was
I was going to ask you, besides Conor Murray, who is the best? So what the next question I want to ask is kind of, what's the contact like when you're gone? So like, is it a case of like, would you still be in contact with a lot of people in Munster, or like maybe the people you were close teammates with, or else is it a case of like kind of when you're gone, or
that's actually a very good quote, because that's something you're told very early, like when you're gone, don't be hanging on, which I did for a while. It's a hard transition, so you do hang on slightly, and you do make contact with fellas, because I mean, you're around them. I was around them more than I was around my original group of friends, like which is mad, you know. You're living in each other's pockets all day. So you do become quite close to fellas, so it's hard, like it's natural to keep in contact because you're probably talking to them about something anyway. But it was different. It was probably the first year was different for me, which was tough because the whole squad went to Limerick and you don't have a chance to just call out to CIT. You have to go the whole way up the road, which I definitely did, and probably too much. But even in terms of coaches, everyone's delighted to talk to you, and it feels genuine anyway. But they are, like, everyone's delighted when an old face comes back in the door. And I remember it when I was in there, the old fellas like Marcus or someone would come in the door and everyone's delighted. The training nearly stops. So you do get a small bit of that, but you know, you don't want to. I was conscious this year especially of not holding on, and that kind of is a tough situation, because do you contact fellas? Are you over contacting them? You do look at it, you do look outside the squad differently when you're inside there. You're like, you want to get over it a bit, like, and then you're outside of it, you're kind of going, oh no, I understand it. So I definitely stay in contact with fellas, but maybe not as much as I'd like to, in terms of meeting up with them or whatever. They're off during the day, I'm not anymore, you know. So
it is tough, like
you get to it, like you get around there eventually, but it's not every day like you used to.
And then you mentioned earlier in the podcast that you're gone into coaching with Cork. How are you finding the whole thing? And
they're a very, very difficult bunch. No, it's tough because I played with all of them, most of them, and if I didn't play with them, I would have been around them in the academy or around them at some stage. So that brings its own challenge, but it's also a nice way to get into coaching, because you know, you're not trying to get your personality across to people that you've never met before. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. Maybe sometimes going in with a clean slate might be good, but it definitely helped me to get in there. I knew all the lads, they knew my kind of philosophies, they knew me as a person, so it's that's kind of easier as a coach, but it's also hard to get through to them, and it's hard to, you know, selecting teams, and I wouldn't have thought I'd have had as much input into selecting teams as but you do, like, you have to, and that's definitely difficult, like, you know, picking fellas and not picking fellas that you are quite close to, or that you do think they're, you know, you're good friends at some stages, or you do think quite highly of them, and then you have to give them the snooze, and next thing you're the coach, and that's not picking them, like, you know. So it is difficult. And then I'm coaching with Brian Hickey and Paul Mack, who I would have played under as well, so that's a different situation. It helps me definitely. And then at the same time, do you want a clean slate? I think it's brilliant being able to learn from them. Like, they're top coaches, and they've been at the top of the game as well, so it's interesting. It's I didn't think I'd enjoy it as much as I am, actually. Even the harder parts of it, it's good to be in around a squad, and not that I wanted to kind of hang on to that squad feeling. I don't really miss that in a way, but it's kind of nice to have something at the weekend that you're looking forward to, and a bit of a challenge, and it can be quite frustrating as well. You can't get your hands on the ball, like, but it's a different challenge, and one that I kind of tried to take week by week as it came, like, and try and get better with it. So it's hard because you want to get better at it and you want to put your best foot forward, but at the end of the day, it's not your sole ambition. You can't go out every week being like, I have to get better as a coach. I actually have a job and I'm trying to do a whole lot of other things as well, and I actually have to not take rugby so seriously now as well, because people are sick of it around me, probably, saying I can't go somewhere because I've got a match and stuff like that. Chloe would definitely feel the effects of that one, like still not being able to go places because I have a match at the weekend. So there's different sides of it, but it's enjoyable. Yeah.
And do you still yourself keep active? Are you playing five-a-side, hitting the gym?
I did play, like, that was one of the things, the weirdest thought ever, coming out of a professional game and going, at least I can play a game of five-a-side with the lads. So I played a good few games of that when I came out of it. That slowed down recently, and especially I hurt my hamstring in the gym a couple of months back, so I kind of completely stopped doing anything aerobic and running at that stage, which I should probably get back into. But I go to the gym a lot. Like, I actually enjoy that anyway. That's nearly stopping myself from going as opposed to making myself go. So I'm definitely someone that came out of the game that I like to exercise. Other fellas maybe like to stay away from it a small bit because they've done it forever and they've had to do it forever. But I can't seem to get away from it. I actually enjoy it. I enjoy going to the gym and kind of finding things out, and watching it and just trying to get better at a certain couple of things and seeing the changes after doing something differently. It's interesting for me. Like, some people just don't find that interesting.
And I only found out about an hour ago that you're actually a triplet, and I was like, what? And I was like,
I told you what?
We have to ask him about a triplet. So literally, what's life like as a triplet?
What's life like as a single baby? It's what I'm used to, and it is kind of, I'm probably only finding it like recently that it's kind of like you've got two crutches either side of you that you stick to, and you're too close to them at times, like it, because we are quite close. Like, other people, there are other triplets in the world, and there are other siblings that aren't as close as we are, and I never understand it. It's like, I don't understand how people don't live in each other's pockets. Like, we lived in a womb together. You can't really get us away from each other for too long. Like, and even when we're like, even my older sister as well, I don't know, like, we're all a bit close. It's good, that's the way we are. But like, if we're not with each other, we're probably texting each other about something, and it's meaningless. Like, it could wait till later, but we're always on to each other. So it is good. Like, it's very different, but that's what I'm used to. So people ask you that question all the time, like, what's it like being a triplet? And then like,
I actually loved your response there. What's it like being a single baby? Like,
I was like,
I didn't have an answer. Like,
because you don't know the difference. Like, but it's definitely different. You go on holidays when you're younger, and you just never make friends. Because you got like two the same age as you. I was going to say something very, very deep there, like, you got two good friends beside you. You've got two people that are the exact same age as you. Like, you don't really need to go and make friends. Like, and probably seen as a bit kind of, not really mingling with people, and people looking at you going, oh, they're into themselves. But we actually just probably didn't really have to. So that's something we could have got better at, making friends.
So, last question now, you've answered about 50 at this stage. So, future plans for Jonny Holland, we'll say 5 years' time, what's different in Johnny's life than right now?
Good question. It's even hard saying it, because like I said, the whole confidence thing, and you find it hard putting yourself out there, you find it hard saying something because you're afraid of not achieving it anyway. But I am actually making JohnnyHolland10.com at the moment, so that's something I'm kind of toying with.
In the works,
And even only the last 2 days, it's accelerated, and I'm kind of like, will I do it, won't I do it? So that's something I'm looking forward to doing. I don't know how big or small that'll be, but I'll do it anyway and see what goes on. Definitely get more and more into the nutrition space, which I'm doing anyway, but there's a bit of an opportunity going forward to get into a sports clinic, and hopefully that happens sooner rather than later. I am actually working with an iron supplement at the moment, and a therapeutic company with Active Iron, so that's a bit of a learning curve. What'll go on there in the future, I don't know. And I'm doing a lot of health and wellness talks at the moment as well, and going to be doing a lot more of them in January to March. I suppose that's a big kind of area for that.
Yeah, new year, new me.
Yeah, exactly. So try to get people on the right path and make it a bit more interesting and realistic, as opposed to the whole the usual Google 5 best tips for getting in shape, and everyone's going into every company saying it, like, I suppose I have a bit of a story to tell, and I thought coming out of the game, I was like throw me back into the academy and I'll just mentor fellas. I've been in the academy for 4 years, more or less. I was like, I just knew it inside out, how to balance your lifestyle, how to deal with the ins and outs of the day, like, and I just thought I had something to give, because I just felt I dealt with it. I dealt with it in my own way, and a lot of fellas my own age dealt with it as well, but I just thought I did it quite well, and I learned a lot from it in terms of how to manage your college life, your I suppose our work life was training, and your social life, which probably the one that I needed to get better at, in terms of keeping in touch with people and getting out and about at night time especially. But so you learn a lot about that kind of stuff going through rugby, and like you do that. Like the academy is based around learning about your lifestyle. The senior setup, you should know that by then, so there's not as much of an emphasis put on it, but you definitely learn a lot about yourself and how to manage your time and all those kind of things, how to be organised. So with what I went through and the resilience to keep going through it, and the mental state that I got into to probably come back to a place mentally where I shouldn't have been physically, I just think there's a lot of kind of a story to tell, so that's something I'm trying to get more and more into, and I've done some on that. So that's there's loads of different avenues now. Like if you asked me last year, I would have given you not a whole lot, I don't know, but happy now I'm able to kind of tell a bit more of a story and drive on with it a small bit more.
Brilliant.
Like just practicing my nutrition is something that I'm into, and helping people to kind of figure theirs out and make it less complicated for them, because it doesn't have to be as complicated as people make out. And when you read it, it seems like, oh God, I'll never do this, but given simpler tips and more realistic stuff with a bit of evidence, as opposed to just throwing anything out there and hoping it will stick. You know, these fad diets and whatever, I probably tried most of them anyway. And using my experiences to help people not go down that route. Like,
yeah. Brilliant. I suppose
we have
that's best luck with all that in the future anyway.
Yeah.
And Kev has something he wants to
so
present.
every guest gets a bit of a glass, Johnny, and you're no different. So
thanks to Gary McCarthy trophies for that
much.
one.
Very nice.
So
actually,
thanks very much.
I saw it over the corner of my eye. That's not for me. I was like, what is my name on that? That's class.
So you'll always remember us now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So thanks a million for sitting down with us and speaking so openly and candidly on everything, and answering about 100 questions.
Your job must be killing you, like, Joe.
No, thanks for having me.
Brilliant. So guys, if you liked it, subscribe.
Please
like, share, do everything. Keep an eye on Johnny, watch his space.
Absolutely.
Follow his JohnnyHolland10.com when it comes out. And,
keep an eye on him, and just don't forget to subscribe and like.
Take it
we'll
easy.
Catch you next.
Hey everybody, so we really hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Franklin Nuts podcast. As we're still a young podcast trying to grow, we just want to ask you guys one favour. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. You can also hit the bell if you're feeling cheeky. You get a notification once a week when the podcast comes out. If you're watching on Facebook, drop us a like. If you're feeling cheeky, hit us a share. That'd be brilliant. And also, you can check us out on iTunes and SoundCloud also. Thanks guys.